Hello my royal lovelies, welcome back to the channel, and as always, welcome to my home. I have notes. You always know it's serious when I've got a couple of pages of notes. So we have had the extraordinary antics today from Prince Harry, who has gone and given an interview to BBC. The BBC. Well, the BBC that operates in the USA anyway, because the interviewer had an American accent, and of course he did the interview in the US. So this is, of course, all in retaliation from the decision by the courts that came out today that he is not going to get increased security when in the United Kingdom. So basically the status quo remains. What Harry does get is a sort of ad hoc, random coverage of security depending upon need when he's in the UK. Of course, he has to inform the royal household, which he outlined as being the sort of middleman, when he's going to come, and then they decide appropriately whether he's going to get kind of full protection or not, and we'll get into the details of that in a little bit. So I'm going to just crack on. I've made notes sort of in order of Harry's interview, so let's crack on with that. I have written down retaliatory interview because he was hot on it. You know, the decision came out, was announced publicly, and then straight away there was an interview. This indicates to me that this was pre-planned. I don't think it was necessarily pre-recorded, although it may have been. I'm not sure we have the details of when it was recorded. I'm not sure. If you do know, tell me. But it was certainly pre-planned, at least, because they were there. You know, it takes time to set up interviews, you know, to get the location, to get the host, you know, to prepare the questions, lighting, cameramen or women. You know, it takes time to plan. So I think Harry has either preempted the decision or he has known about the decision pretty much since the actual court case finished, since he was sort of there in person. I think his lawyer indicated what the outcome was going to be, and I think that is why we saw Meghan using HRH in private, which she's entitled to do, but then sort of allowing it to become public. And of course, there's a whole other video on, you know, Meghan using the HRH with connection to work purposes. I mean, it's very tenable private use, shall we say. I'm going to raise an eyebrow at that. Let's skirt over that for a moment. Like I say, that's a whole other video. So I think Meghan was testing the water because she knew what was coming. They knew what was coming. It was a warning. It was a warning shot. If you don't do something before this decision comes out, if you don't rectify it, this is what we can do. We can go against you. We've got nothing else to lose. It was a warning. So this interview was a retaliatory interview. It was premeditated, pre-planned, pre-set up, all good to go. And it's Harry's last-ditch attempt at trying to get public opinion on his side to pressurise his father and the royal household. Harry was very careful throughout the whole interview to almost sort of call basically his family the royal household, kind of taking a swipe at the men in grey suits. But I think what he really meant was his father and his brother, who of course are, you know, very important when it comes to the royal household. The king is the head of the royal household, kind of. Well, he's the boss. The king is the boss. We all know that. Right, let's move on a little bit because I've got so much to talk about. Harry said he had no way to win the case and he wished he'd been told about it prior to. Harry, we have been telling you online that all your lawyers are doing is trying to fleece you. The only reason they want to know you is because they see a golden goose of court cases. Of course they weren't going to tell you that you were going to lose, because it's not them that's going to foot any bill. The court case is estimated to have racked up £1.5 million worth of debt. That's the other side's costs and his own. So the only people that win in these situations are the lawyers. Harry, wake up, wake up. Smell the bacon. I'm not talking about Meghan. Anyway, he wished people had told him the truth. Open your ears, my love, and your eyes while you're at it. I don't think he's going to appeal. He could appeal to the Supreme Court, I think it is. I don't think he's going to, because later on in the interview, we'll get to that, he did sort of say he's done fighting. So that indicates to me that he's not going to pursue any further, because I think he knows that the odds are stacked against him, and that decision is not going to change even if he appealed, and he'd just end up losing even more and having to pay even more money. He claims it's impossible to visit the UK. It's not impossible to visit the UK. He can hop on a plane anytime he wants to. He has done it before. All he's got to do is tell them that he's coming. Now, he does indicate later on in the interview that he can only get full police protection if he is invited. I'm calling BS on that, absolute BS, because we have seen photographs of him arriving in the UK and being whisked off with police protection when he's not been invited. I'm talking most recently, I think, when he flew over, when he found out that his father had cancer. He was photographed having police escorts from the airport to Buckingham Palace. This isn't fabricated, it's the truth. So he certainly didn't tell them with plenty of notice that he was coming over, so he can't even claim that. And he got protection. So I'm not quite sure where all this is coming. Maybe officially that is the line, but I think in practice he's found it to be quite amenable to him, actually. So most people, including Ravek, including the government, including the royal household, would say that actually it is a good fit, because he's kind of getting the protection when he's here anyway. It just isn't official, it isn't automatic. And of course he wants it to be automatic, so he can sort of, you know, feel important, or rather so that a certain Ms. Markle Sussex can feel important. So he thinks that there was no way to win, impossible to visit the UK. Well, like I said, I'm calling him BS on that one. And he claims that he loves the UK and always has done. BS again, because I posted a video on this very channel where he was in the army. I think he was in the army at the time. I think he was out of the country, and he was talking about the UK, saying how much he hated it and didn't miss it, didn't even want to live here. So I'm calling BS on that one. You've not always loved the UK at all. BS, and there's proof of it everywhere. There's receipts everywhere. I can provide a link if you want me to. I'm not going to, because I can't be bothered to sift through all my videos, but it's there. He would not say why he feels unsafe, and he mentioned the redaction process. So I don't know exactly what he has to adhere to. All I would say is he picks and chooses the rules that he follows if it suits him, because I'm sure, you know, it wasn't proper protocol and it wasn't approved of to do Spare or to do Oprah or do the Netflix documentary or anything else he's done. But yet he still did them. He still told things. So he picks and chooses what, if it suits him. If he doesn't want to disclose something, then it's suddenly, oh, I can't talk about it. Well, it's not stopped you talking about things before. So I don't think he does not feel safe. I think he feels as safe as he does in the US, because later in the interview he says that when questioned what the difference is in the protection, he basically says that private security is not as good as police protection for various reasons. I think he's talking about the fact that they can't carry weapons, but of course they can't, and of course they don't have any access to any information, any police information, any government state information. They don't in the US. So what makes him feel safer in the US or any other country that he's been to over the past 4 or 5 years than the UK? What makes him think that I would probably say he's probably really got kind of a bit more support in the UK than what he does in other countries in the world that he's been to, including the US. So I don't know why he feels unsafe. I'm calling BS on that one as well. He wants a risk assessment done. He claims that the royals have one done every year. Well, I imagine that is true. He wants one. It's not going to come out anymore. And in fact, this is the whole reason why he mentioned about his kill count in Spare, was because he wanted to increase the risk factor. He wanted to put himself and his family at risk so that if they did a risk assessment, it would come up higher. That's what he wanted. He wanted the threat from Al-Qaeda to be increased. Why else do you think he put that in the book? This guy is a complete Fruit Loop and incredibly, incredibly transparent. So he's not going to get a new risk assessment. He wants King Charles to step out of the way of Ravek and let Ravek and the professionals do their job. Basically, he sort of revealed that I find it incredible that he didn't know that the royal household has a hand in Ravek. And of course, Ravek are going to need someone, sort of a middle person or a couple of middle people from the palace, to be able to have access to the information that they need to make the risk assessments. You know, it's fundamental that they have access to this info. Does Harry not see that? Does Harry not see a reason why there are royal household members on the committee? Does he not see that? Otherwise, if there wasn't, they would just be doing guesswork, or, you know, they wouldn't necessarily understand what the risk is. I'm just saying. So he says that he has to go through the royal household to get the protection. Now this confused me because I thought he would have had a contact at Ravek, that he would just say, I'm coming, make the assessment, blah, blah, blah. But no, he has to go through the palace. That must absolutely pain Harry to have to still go through the palace. I'm just saying that will be a sore point for him. He thinks that the Ravek process should be non-biased, and of course it should be. And I think it was non-biased. Harry is just not choosing to see. He's seeing bias where there isn't any. Because let's take a look. I've got written down as well, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie. Now, when they were 5th and 6th at the time in line to the throne, they had their police protection stripped away, and they were still HRHs, and they weren't, crucially, working royals. So Harry fell into the same precedent category as Beatrice and Eugenie. No longer a working royal, still technically has the HRH, still is a prince of the United Kingdom, was at the time, I believe, 5th in line to the throne, the same as what Beatrice and Eugenie were, 5th and 6th respectively. So there is already precedent. He's trying to see bias where there isn't any. Open your eyes, Harry, open your eyes. He thought that 35 years of service. He keeps saying 35 years of service. 35, Harry. Did you start public service at like 5 or 6? No, you started public life then, but you weren't serving. You were just existing. You didn't actually start serving until you left school and went into the army. That's when you started serving. So all this 35 years nonsense, he needs to go back to school and do some maths, I think. And then he sort of spoke about being a private, he was made a private citizen by the royal household. No, you made yourself a private citizen. You were given the option to stay. You were given the option of a 1 year's grace period by Her Majesty to change your mind. You didn't. You wanted to go on and make your own way, blah, 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 of which you could have chosen to have done so respectfully, and you didn't. You could have gone ahead and not done Oprah, not done Spare, not done Netflix, not trash talked your family. You could have just started business ventures and got on with it, and I'm sure you would have been a little bit further ahead than what you are now. So you were not made it by the royal household. You just didn't get what you wanted. You wanted to be half in, half out, have the benefits of making money and living the high life in Hollywood, in Tinseltown, without just doing half a job. I'm saying it as it is, my love. You need a hard dose of reality. That's what you need. Says he can't talk about the detail. Again, this sort of case-by-case basis, can't talk. It suits him not to talk about the detail. Because obviously the detail is not in his favour. So He says the royal family is using security as a leverage, and that the result of this is that it will imprison more family members to stay in the royal family. I think most royal family members know where their bread is buttered. They are better off within the royal family. And a lot of the working royals are very respectful of what chances they are given, the opportunities that they have, even though they do come with some restrictions, that they are just lucky to be able to serve their country in this way, and they don't throw it back in the nation's face. Harry has thrown it back in the nation's face and is feeling the repercussions of doing so. He says the king can resolve the situation by stepping aside and letting Rabec do their thing. I don't think the king or Prince William are going to step aside and provoke the government of the day and Rabec to reinstate Harry's security, because Harry has kept harpooning and harpooning and harpooning. The best thing that Harry could have done when he left was just shut his face. Got on with life, got on with business, but not retaliated and not tried to point score, not tried to get his own back, not try and be petty. He poked the beast, and the beast, i.e. the institution, were like, no, you are insignificant in the grand scheme of things. We are not going to be dictated to by you. And Harry did not like that one little bit. He described it as being a good old-fashioned stitch-up. No, Harry, you've stitched yourself up. The only person that's stitching anyone up is you. Your own actions, words and deeds over the past 5 to 6 years have stitched yourself up. And you cannot own the situation. You need to just own the reality of the situation, which is that you've done it to yourself. No one has done it to you. You've done it yourself. You are the one to blame. Okay, so he's appealed to the government to step in. Obviously, we've had a change of government over the past 12 months, and he's appealing for them to intervene. They aren't going to. They aren't going to. This is a desperate last attempt by Harry. He indicated, like I said before, that he won't take it any further, specified it's a family dispute, said that the security is the sticking point, and also this extraordinary thing that he's willing to forgive and forget. He spoke about he's willing to forgive and forget all the bit from pre-2016. Talked about how horrible the press has been to him and his family, blah blah blah. Look, the royal family don't want forgiveness. They don't want forgiveness from you. They want you to apologise for what you've done. All of this is just he's trying desperately to win public favour, and it is just completely not going to work. He said he's happier outside of the royal family. Well, stay outside of it then. Stay out. If you're happy, he's moaned about all this, and then suddenly turns around and says, "Well, I'm happier." Well, good. Don't come back to the UK. You're not in exile. You're in self-imposed exile. You stay away. The US can have him. Stay away, my lovey. He says he was some people want history to repeat itself, but he wouldn't say who. By that, he's referring to what happened to Princess Diana. I'm not quite sure where he's heard from that people wanted that to happen to him. I think this is one of Harry's fabrications. I think this is why what happened in New York with the car chase, he sort of blew up bigger than what it actually was, is because he's trying to pull on the heartstrings of people that this could happen to him without the security. Well, it could happen anywhere. Are you getting police escorts and security all the time when you're in the US? Are you? If you are, then good luck, my lovey. You stay there. He feels let down by the UK. Really? After the UK give you everything? Would you be able to be doing Oprah and be writing a book and all this kind of thing if it wasn't for the UK? I'm open-mouthed. I really am. I've spoken about the forgiveness and the security being the sticking point. He said, this is quite interesting, that the royal household signalled to all other governments around the world not to offer him protection. Well, we've seen examples where he has gone away and he has been offered protection. So it's either the countries are defying the wishes of the royal household, which could be a diplomatic nightmare, or he's just telling a big fat porky lie. I don't know, but I thought that was quite interesting. I've got written down that he's trying to win public opinion. I've spoken about that. He mentioned his book, saying that the family won't forgive him for certain things. No point in fighting on. No idea how much King Charles has to live. I mean, what an extraordinary thing to say. How provocative can you be? Do you think the king is going to be amenable to Harry after he said that about his health? Broken a cardinal rule about speaking about the health of a royal without their consent? In fact, it doesn't even matter. Speaking about the health of anybody without their consent. Now look, if we don't know exactly what cancer King Charles has, we don't know what treatments he's on, we know he's on ongoing treatment and that he's living with cancer rather than being sort of cured from it, if that makes any kind of sense. Of course, there are types of cancer you can live with tablets and treatment and ongoing therapy for decades. So we don't know how long King Charles has. It just goes to show the state of the relationship that Harry doesn't know. And it's despicable that Harry is using King Charles's health as leverage to try and win public opinion. Oh, Harry's being hard done to, doesn't even know how ill his father is. I wonder why people... What Harry's done now is just proven a point of the royal household about why Harry can't be trusted and let back into the fold. Because he'll just go and blab. It'll end up in People magazine, won't it? Harry says that I spoke about this before, that UK only has an obligation to give him protection when he's on UK soil if he has an invited reason for being here, like funerals, any occasions that he's been invited. Like I say, he's been over when he hasn't been invited, and he's got police protection perfectly fine. So Harry, I'm going to leave it here now. I'm sure we'll hear rumblings about this. I don't know what the palace's reaction or retaliation will be. We've not seen any yet. I think it will be business as usual. I don't think they're going to comment. We may see a few snippets come out from royal insiders talking to reporters. But I think it'll be business as usual. I don't think they will let Harry rattle their cages. Harry is beaten. He's beaten. He's not going to get security. He's in self-imposed exile. What's he going to do? The only threat is we're going to start using our titles. Well, take them away. The only threat is, well, I've got another 400 pages to spare. Well, do your worst. Do your worst. Make your reputation even worse than it is now. You go ahead. You do you, boo. Right, I'm off. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, share, like, all that business, and I will see you next time. Mwah, to you all, my lovies, and goodbye.